I'm going to hand over now to Sonia. She is Sonia Hyner. She is our Climate Committee Chair, and she will be doing this evening's presentation and leading the discussion. So I shall just mute you all just during the presentation, except for Sonia, because that would be funny, wouldn't it, if I did the wrong one? And shortly after a video is played, I will also be muting myself as well to stop any background noise. So I shall now pass you over to Sonia.
Thank you, Kate. Good evening. Welcome to our Great Expectations event for a sustainable future for Medway. This presentation is run by Medway Green Party. My name is Sonia Hyner, and I will be facilitating this open meeting on the United Nations 2015 Sustainable Development Goals, Road Plan to a More Sustainable Future. This work has been influenced by Future Learn. I'd like to start with some housekeeping. Please remain muted, raise your electronic hand to raise a point, write your questions in the chat box, and we will try to answer them at the end of the presentation. Please have a pen and paper at hand, as this is an interactive session. What comes out of the Q&A will be a structured discussion, and the event will be recorded with view to circulating it amongst other interested parties. If you know anything about the Sustainable Development Goals, you may conclude that they are about the developing nations. I would like to prove to you that we are all living in developing nations, given that our futures are inextricably linked to the future of society. The goals simply look at developing resilience in the face of instability. Once there is acknowledgement that climate change exists, then it's up to us to find creative solutions to deal with this adversity. I apply the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in terms of a road plan, largely in relation to the United Kingdom and the local environment. You will form your own thoughts about us being a developing nation as we move through the slides. It's important to state that they do not form a priority order, and the way that they will run will be showing problems in the United Kingdom with climate change and any solutions that I've managed to identify specifically in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you. Sustainable commitments. So companies and organisations are increasingly judged by how they contribute to society and the challenges facing planet Earth. Sustainability commitments are no longer about words, they're about action and engagement. Tonight we will walk you through the goals and discuss how you might apply them to real life scenarios. Your first task will be to identify the 5 most important sustainable development goals that you feel apply to the country and world today. We will give you brief definitions as we walk you through the Sustainable Development Goals. At the end of the presentation, we will ask you to choose one SDG, one that you could commit your life to help change the world in the best interest of all humankind and the natural world. In 2015, 195 nations agreed with the United Nations that they can change the world for the better. This will be accomplished by bringing together their respective governments, businesses, media, institutions of higher education and local NGOs to improve the lives of the people in their country by the year 2030. What are the Sustainable Development Goals? Well, number one is no poverty. To end poverty, everyone should have basic healthcare, security and education. And the Green Party actually believe in a universal basic income. But in addition to this, we would say that street homelessness, which is a lack of basic shelter, is linked directly to poverty. And if we see this on our streets, this goal is being contravened. There are solutions. If we can find the money to house homeless people during a pandemic, then the same principle should apply outside of a pandemic. The next goal is no hunger. So globally, 1 in 9 people are undernourished and starving. This goal aims to end hunger. In terms of the United Kingdom, we have food banks, and outside of pandemics, this links to a lack of state provision, and that needs to be significantly improved. So the third goal is good health and well-being, ensuring people live healthy lives, and this can cut child mortality and raise life expectancy. We would also add, in terms of solutions, continuing to invest and support our national health services, planting more trees locally to reduce the effects of pollution and related asthma, reducing car emissions and treating everyone with respect. Good quality education. The UN wants everyone to have access to inclusive, equitable quality education. To add to this, we would say, well, we've just acknowledged that all sectors of the service, including young people and adult education, is equally as important. And 5, gender equality. So gender equality is a human right and is vital for a peaceful, prosperous world. We would also say, finally eliminating unequal pay between men and women and firmly acknowledging LGBT community rights. And 6 is clean water and sanitation. So clean water protects people from diseases, yet 3 in 10 people lack access to it throughout the world. Affordable and clean energy. So targets for 2030 include using more renewable, affordable energy. We have some solutions to this. For example, eliminating fuel poverty and fossil fuels, investing in renewable energy sources, acknowledging that toxic air from cars is illegal, it is killing us, working towards fewer and cleaner electric and hydraulic cars in our areas. Decent work and economic growth. The aim is for sustainable economic growth and decent employment for all. Our solutions acknowledge the loss of furloughed jobs and the impact of this on housing tenancies, which will evidence a hit on local economies. Being innovative and create green jobs like digging up old landfill sites to remove harmful plastics. Building environmentally friendly social housing to help mitigate the effects in the slump in the market. Industry, innovative and innovation in infrastructure. This involves building resilient infrastructure and fostering innovation. Solutions acknowledge that resilient housing depends on its foundations. If it's built on London clay, then it will possibly lose longevity. Recognise that all new housing must be built with solar panels, walls and loft insulation and electric heating systems to capture, save energy and reduce fuel costs and poverty. Insist that all business plans must pass a Sustainable Development Goals test by regulators and be green, and welcome innovations that come from green industries and embed green infrastructures when local authorities, local water authorities, local sewage works and local people work together for the common good. 10, reduce inequality. The poorest 40% of the world's population should be able to grow their income faster than average. A solution, we should press governments such as the USA to lift the sanctions that have been placed on countries like Cuba, hindering their growth. Sustainable cities and communities. The UN wants to increase affordable housing and make settlements inclusive, safe and sustainable. We have further solutions. The essential key to sustainable cities and communities can only be reached through partnership working with local water authorities, local sewage works and local community representatives. Friends of the Earth go further. They say that we must rapidly phase out diesel cars and buses. We must decommission polluting cars using government scrapping schemes. We must welcome people to our clean air neighbourhoods. And we must praise our clean air work through healthier lungs for our children. Responsible consumption and production. This goal aims to foster eco-friendly production, reduce waste and boost recycling. Facts: 3.1 million tonnes of food is wasted globally each year. And who buy? The people who take the product to be packed, the packers, supermarket waste, restaurant waste and consumer waste. And the worst culprits are consumers. Solutions: Chinese restaurants could advise people to share a bowl of rice instead of wasting it. Supermarkets could give leftover food products to charities. The massive third world packaging industry could stop using plastics and find more suitable ways of transporting food and products. And we could all task ourselves to reduce food waste. In terms of recycling, we need to upcycle waste, reduce waste, reuse waste, recycle waste and burn waste. We must keep all waste off of landfill so that we can finally close them down. And local councils need to work with their water companies, the sewage companies, the local communities to find ways of using waste for energy purposes, as proven by Geneco Waste Management Company in the West Country. Climate action. Urgent action is needed by regulating emissions and promoting renewable energy. This needs real political and community will. The problems: Japan has recently recorded rises of heat of 2% above normal summer levels in 2020. With floodplains, linear responses to flooding may result in lobbying governments for higher flood walls. But there are solutions. The longer term solutions to flooding may need more innovation to look more broadly at the problem. We need to understand greenhouse gases such as CF2 and CF4, tetrafluoride, which is an emission from aluminium and contributes to global warming for 50,000 years. These emissions are now regulated in the UK. The problem is local authority climate change committees must involve independent town planners, architects and interested local people to determine climate action solutions in their areas and embrace the rhetoric of sustainable development goals. They must work in partnership with communities working in unison with the United Nations to significantly affect meaningful change and embrace the local, national and international innovations to work in the best interests of the global community. Life below water is 14. The facts are 300 million tonnes of plastic is produced each year, and much of this waste, such as ketchup sachets and plastic tops and milk cartons, finds its way into the oceans. Questions: we should ask ourselves, what can I do to reduce the amount of plastic that I use in everyday life? And what difficulties might I face in trying to reduce the plastic that I use? By asking the questions, we can start to identify the answers. The facts: single-use plastic has increased since lockdown. Solutions: we must research how plastic waste is broken down and join debates and activities on how to remove it from our rivers and our seas. We must organise to take microplastics from cosmetics, cleaning products and fibrous clothing out of the rivers to stop this pollution from entering our seas. You can see more information about this on city2sea.org.uk for more information. We must hold shipping companies and oil rigs to account to stop oil disasters, maybe through legislation. We must report abuses of waterways to the Environment Agency for investigation. After all, that is their job. We must actively involve ourselves in learning about and campaigning against these environmental catastrophes. Life on land. To stop soil degradation, we must protect against the effects of coastal erosion and the overdevelopment of land. So the facts are, we have regulatory mechanisms in the environmental agency in terms of keeping our waters clean. This is talking about life on land. We must identify possible land that can be reclaimed, respect areas with SSSIs, specific scientific interest, protect our fragile wildlife. We must challenge local authorities that fail to work in partnership with organisations and communities that understand the importance of mitigating the effects of soil degradation and coastal erosion linked to the overdevelopment of land in their areas. Solutions: we propose that the Hoo Peninsula in Medway is run by a management committee made up of 5 local councillors, 5 town planners stroke architects and 5 local people who are voted in each year to manage the peninsula in terms of environment, jobs and housing needs. We propose that the local council pays for a start-up fund to enable this to happen. Peace and justice. This aim is inclusive societies with strong institutions that provide justice for all. The last slide is partnership. So if all countries are to achieve every goal, then international cooperation is vital. So solutions. This PowerPoint has alluded to the need for partnership working to ensure that sustainable development goals are met in 2030. Without this essential awareness, the aim to reach the goal will be seriously put off track. Each initiative that takes place is one step closer to meeting the aim of zero carbon emissions in 2030, and will ultimately immediately provide substantial health benefits, which will take some of the burden off of the NHS. The problem is we need to acknowledge the magnitude of the problem and that local authorities across the country are not in a position to deal with the issue of climate change in isolation. The existing linear economy tells us to take resources and throw them away. The circular economy looks at biological materials, regenerating natural capital and remanufacturing products. Solution. A fact before solution: 95% of plastic is actually lost. A new plastic economy will help us to redesign plastic and design out the waste from it. We need to build circular economies that are restorative, regenerative and supportive of, by funders and partners. We need policies that are flexible to change, to allow scientists to incorporate specific data more quickly into society. So questions we need to ask ourselves: how can we choose a personal path that allows us to have a satisfying life which can make a difference? And I have a quote for you. Mahatma Gandhi is reported to have said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." So for further information, see Future Learn, free learning facility online. Check the learning provision on Unleash Your Potential Sustainable Future. We found more community-based solutions than problems. So now over to you. What have you decided to make your life ambition to reach nil carbon emission by 2030? Please share your thoughts on the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Now, I've got a feeling that because we've got a poll coming up, it's not allowing us to use a chat box as well. Okay. So I'm just going to stop the screen share for a moment, and rather than look at the screen, we can see if anybody is waving. If you'd wanted to turn your mics and your cameras back on, you're welcome to, and I will do the same, although I pity you all.
Okay.
So that was the first part of our presentation, and it was specifically looking at what the goals are. And Sonia was obviously given quite a few solutions to the problems there. We'll go on in a moment to ask a few questions in regards to where you see the goals, the polls going. What I'm going to do first is ask you to choose your 5 most important SDGs. So it's a multiple choice question. There are 2 parts. Because there are 17, it doesn't fit onto one slide, onto one question. So you can choose any 5 across both questions. So
if you are happy to get voting, please do. We can leave it running while we're talking if there are any questions from the room. I don't think there are. I did try and do a live feed, but there's far too many buttons to press, and I was worried about missing Sonia, so the live feed isn't happening now. Oh, we've got some votes coming. Oh, exciting. It's like the lottery. I don't think I'll be the winner though. Oh, someone has voted for their top 5. So that's one. So there's 5 of us. Oh, I suppose, do I need to vote as well? Oh no, I don't get to vote. Just as well, I don't think I could choose just 5. But everybody else is invited to do so. I'm not sure if you can, Sonia. I think because you're co-host, you might find that you can't, but give it a go if you can. Yeah. And this is the first time we've used multiple polls in a Zoom presentation. So it'd be quite good to see exactly how it worked. Our last Zoom poll was when we were having the Protect Who campaign meeting, and we used the time to discuss a slogan and decide on the official name for the campaign that I hope Simon and Satinder and Chris, who are with us, will come on board with as well. 3 have now voted, so we now have 50% of the cast.
I don't think I can vote.
No. If I can ask people to do so in the next minute, and then the poll will close. And if you don't want to vote, you don't have to vote. This is much like an election. It's entirely your choice to do so. 4 votes, so 4 people have now voted, so that's fantastic. And we've got 30 seconds on the clock. Dun, 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 dun.
Like a countdown.
Yeah, I was trying. It wasn't very good. At least this is not X Factor, you're okay. Right, you've got another 10 seconds and I'll be closing the votes. If you have not done so, please do. If you choose not to, that is also entirely okay.
And the conundrum.
So I'm closing in 3, 2, 1, end poll. So we had 5 votes on that, and in total, the top 3 SDGs came back as no poverty, SDG 1, climate action, which is SDG 13, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. So world peace, you can legitimately say without being a contestant on, this is the American beauty pageant. I can't think what they're called now. Miss America, that was it. Closely followed behind by a pretty even spread, actually. So going from SDGs 2 all the way up to SG 17. So all of us voted for, oh, the only one that didn't get a vote was life below water. So that was the only SDG that wasn't picked at all. Maybe we've not got very many swimmers with us, I'm not sure. So I'm going to now restart the presentation. I said that, oh, we've got a couple of chats that have come in actually. Give me 2 seconds, let's have a look. Simon is giving apologies because his connection is not very good. Not a problem at all. And Chris was saying, hello. So I'm going to now share my screen again, back to the presentation. And I'm going to hand you back to Sonia. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have a scenario that we'd like to share with you. The scenario actually comes from the housing charity Shelter, and they have said that sadly many people view homelessness as a result of personal failings and consider that if the economy is going well, there is no excuse for not getting on. This is Shelter. Sleeping rough in the open air on cold, hard concrete in doorways, parks or bus shelters and in buildings not designed for habitation, such as car parks, sheds and derelict buildings, was a stark reality for an estimated 4,134 people sleeping in Rutland, England in 2016. So the scenario, a single mum with 2 children talks about her life in the United Kingdom as a single parent in unsuitable social housing. She says, and this is a real life case, it's not just the impact of the damp and mould that gets me, but the way I've been treated, like dirt on someone's shoe. I've hit rock bottom many times. There's no help for people in social housing suffering from despair. So what we'd like you to do now is to consider which SDGs would apply to this particular family. So we've put the whole of the SDGs up on the screen for you. So just see if you can identify as many as possible, and then we'll go through the ones that I think actually apply, and we'll see how many you got right. Kate, can we just show the SDGs?
Oh, that should. You should be able to see them now.
Yeah.
That's
good, thank you. Yeah.
And once we have done the discussion, we will then do another poll. I know it's exciting to gauge people's thoughts.
Yes.
So I don't know if people have come across this situation during lockdown through any volunteering that they may have been doing, or even talking to family and friends. But it is quite a common occurrence that I've come across. And I know that Satinder has come across quite heavily during our volunteering together. And Simon, I imagine you too have had similar situations. So what I can do is, while we are talking, I can share the results of the last poll, which I didn't realize I could do, but I've done that now. And so that's the results of the last poll. So that will be recorded within the video, so that will be visible for the next time.
I must admit, I'm a little bit shocked by the fact that there's nobody voted for life in water.
Well, I know that you and I would have done, so we would have at least had 2 votes, but because we're not allowed to vote.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And Thelma probably would now, but she missed the first one.
Sorry.
Okay. So what I do in the background is I'm going to launch the poll again. Thelma, what this poll is, it's just looking at the scenario of a single mum with 2 children living in social housing that's in disrepair, and which of the SDGs, which of them in total, so you can choose as many or as few as you think are relevant to her situation and bringing up 2 children. Bernard, have you had any thoughts on the situation?
I've ticked 2 so far.
Oh, fantastic. Oh yes, we've had one vote cast. Excellent. There are 6 remaining for those that wish to, and again, you don't have to. And I will, having a look, we've got 4 in. Say another 40 seconds. Oh, actually, I don't need to, because everybody has done it. So let me end the polling and share the results with you.
Oh,
and as you can see, straight at the top, good health and well-being. So one of the SDGs that I think you'd agree with aren't the most popular with your typical money-focused economists, but it's very important to a good economy within a country, and I think that's going to become more and more apparent. So I'm going to hand back over to Sonia as she talks us through just some of those that you could have chosen.
So I looked at Sustainable Development Goal number 1, so no poverty. So the SDGs say that this family should have the right not to live in poverty. Poor housing is linked to poverty. I think SDG 2, zero hunger, people with limited incomes may forfeit food for clothes, heat, petrol, water, feed animals. SDG 3, good health and well-being. So if you're poor, your family's mental health may suffer, and this contravenes the SDGs. And then I looked at SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. If income is low, fuel poverty is an issue and fuel becomes unaffordable. So SDG 10 reduces inequality. If people and families cannot access a sustainable income and housing, they may feel marginalised and not have the same access to opportunities in life. And SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, shelter states that social housing is at crisis point. With the loss of jobs linked to COVID-19, street homelessness looks set to rise. Some social housing is in disrepair. This goal is being directly contravened. SDG 13, climate action. If homes are not fit for purpose, they may well be emitting carbon, which is not only bad for the environment, but also for the family. Damp and mould can have a direct impact on health and ultimately impact on health services. According to the Chief Medical Officer, 2019, every pound spent on improving cold homes is expected to bring annual savings of 42 pence per year for the NHS. SDG 16, peace, justice and strong institutions. Is it just that to buy a house you need almost 8 times your salary, as stated by Shelter? House prices are extortionate and social housing is not properly invested into by consecutive governments for decades.
So we have a bingo. With a 13 and a 16, we have a bingo.
So we have identified a staggering 8 out of 17 goals that could apply to the single parent in unsuitable social housing. A lack of awareness and commitment from local and national governments has meant that sustainable affordable houses with solar panels and electric boilers, heat pumps as standard are not being built. Furthermore, existing properties are not sufficiently insulated and their energy provisions are in dire need of upgrade. Something which would stem the rise of homelessness, all of which is in direct contravention to the SDGs the UK signed up to. Now let's determine which SDGs apply to Medway. Let's get the vote now. Get voting now.
Right. So this one, oh. So this one's not a vote. This one was more of just a general discussion. But I think we're having quite a few issues in the background with microphones and speeds.
But it is true, they all apply in actual fact.
Yes.
You could make link with every single one of them. It is absolutely true.
And this is the final vote here. So this will ask you, out of all of the 17 SDGs, which one you personally feel you could commit to achieving, or commit your life to trying to achieve. It's a journey, not a destination. So here we go. Right, we have 3 of the 6 votes cast. So when we get to 5, I'll give
Can
the
I have
reminder. There we go.
Hey,
We're
hey,
done.
can I have mine back?
I'm afraid there are no refunds.
Well, you've changed the rules since I voted. So.
Oh, I see. Very true.
I thought we could add protection on this.
Here we go. So there are our votes there. So no poverty, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, climate action, life below water, and partnerships for the goals.
Wow.
So where's the
good health and well-being?
Share results. You should see those now.
It isn't there this time, but good health
No.
and well-being scenario.
Very true. Very good point.
I'm really surprised that gender equality isn't getting more of a look in, because to me that is the key to everything.
The gender gap has really been quite interesting in the way that individuals have been able to, with children, where there is a couple together, that statistically, the man has been returning to work while the mother stays at home, has been returning to work while the other one stays to look after children. So it does really highlight the need to support families as well as single parents, I think, because it's about getting the balance right.
We shouldn't have to be talking about single mothers as if that was a normal thing. You know, what's the matter with single fathers? Why can't
exactly?
Why can't responsibility be shared?
Yeah.
In a proper,
it is
equitable
changing.
way.
Oh, definitely, and it is changing. I think I'm hoping the generation of my boys will be different, but I hear some of the things that they say from school that some of the boys have said, and it does surprise me that in 2020 that an 8 or 9 year old is thinking the way that an 8 or 9 year old is thinking. Right, so I'm going to pass back over now because I will waffle for hours. Back to Sonia, who is going to, if I can get, there we go, about how to get involved.
Okay, how to get involved. So join the Green Party or become a supporter. Share your expertise and ideas on how we can work towards achieving the SDGs here in Medway. Help with or initiate fundraising events. Donate to https://medway.greenparty.org.uk. donate.html. Give admin support, including support with the coordination of meetings. Contribute to social media campaigns by sharing, liking and commenting. Carry out research to help us on this journey. Together we are stronger. To get involved with Medway Green Party and our campaigning, please email Marilyn Stone, membership@medway.greenparty.org.uk. Thank you. Protect Who campaign, 7th of September at 8 p.m. Protected areas status, planning for the future, 17th of September at 8 p.m. Thank you.
So please feel free to stay behind if you would like to join in with any questions that you may have or any discussions that take place. But we want to officially thank you for helping us to make the world a fairer, kinder and more sustainable planet.